Redefine Yourselfer. Welcome into One Autistic Adult Story, the video series that helps celebrate 2025's National Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month by sharing autistic journeys of adults who suspect they're on the spectrum, self-identify as autistic, or are pursuing or have received a late diagnosis of autism who are living confident autistic lives. I am the confident autistic, an autistic adult, late diagnosed, and let's meet today's guest. Joining me today on this episode of One Autistic Adult Story 2025 is Kara Nash. I had to look at the other screen. I'm horrible at names. I really am. I know mine and know my wife's. I'm doing pretty good. Kara, welcome to One Autistic Adult Story.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you having me on and all the work that you're doing out in the community to get awareness and acceptance.
Thank you for those kind words. Now, I usually ask the first question, do you suspect you're autistic, self-identify as autistic, pursuing a late diagnosis of autism, or have you received a late diagnosis of autism? Which one of the four camps are you in?
I received a late diagnosis of autism. I'll say it was very difficult to achieve in my area here in Western North Carolina. It took me about 18 months to get in with a testing facility, UNC Teach. And so for that time, I was kind of on hold. I was aware that I'm a mental health nurse. I was aware I met the criteria in the new DSM. My psychiatrist was aware I met the criteria in the new DSM, but to get the actual diagnosis was a pretty long road, which is, I think, really common for a lot of people in the US today.
Now, what triggered you to say, maybe I'm on the spectrum, or start that journey to getting your late diagnosis?
Well, I've had a lot of misdiagnoses, as a lot of people on the spectrum have, especially for females. Little boys have autism, little girls have bipolar disorder. So there had always been a lot of since teenhood, major depressive disorder, ADD, bipolar, like just kind of generalized anxiety disorder, social anxiety disorder, different wordage that didn't quite fit. And then I read a book by an author called Mark Haddon. It's called The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. And the main character is autistic. And as I was reading it, and it's from his perspective, I realized I didn't know any of those things were abnormal. Like they were being encapsulated or framed as though they were abnormal things that brought this child anxiety. He's a 15-year-old protagonist. And I was like, all of those are things I do. I count things to see if they're even or odd numbers, and if they're even or odd numbers, the ritualistic behaviors that the lead character had were behaviors I thought everyone had. So it gave me insight into my own lack of theory of mind, and that overtly everyone doesn't do this. I just assumed. And also that perhaps there's a more comfortable way of functioning in the world, which was both hopeful and terrifying because it wasn't anything I'd experienced up until that point in my 30s.
Now, why did you decide to go to get the late diagnosis of autism? Because some people just suspect it and they're happy at that point. Some will self-identify they're happy at that point, but some avoid going for late diagnosis for many reasons, as you kind of mentioned, the long waiting period. It's been brought up that many insurance companies will not pay for it. It's a pretty expensive procedure. And then people who really suspect and self-identify or want to get that validation, but also afraid of being rejected and being told, oh, you don't meet the criteria. What made you go all the way for a late diagnosis?
So I'll say first and foremost that it is a personal decision, that everyone knows what maybe the ideal choices for them, and then also what the choices that fits within their limitations of maybe their financial situation or their mobility situation. So I was privileged in the fact that because I had ins in the mental health community, being a mental health nurse, um, it was sort of the structure that I came from was you get a diagnosis to make sure you get the proper treatment. And since I'd had so many other diagnoses, I really wanted the extensive testing so I could learn things about, there's a lot of differential diagnoses or things that autism looks like. A couple of my folks, when I refer them out, they end up having like ADHD and OCD with Tourette's, and they're not autistic at all. But it's a very fine tuning, and I wanted to make sure I'd been on so many medications by the time I was in my 30s, and none of them had worked. And I really wanted to make sure that I had the right diagnosis so I could get the best possible chance of finding a medication that would help me have a lifestyle that was somewhere close to the lifestyle I wanted to lead.
So your experience as a mental health nurse, that kind of influenced your decision to get the diagnosis because in your line of work, a proper diagnosis can get proper support resources and medication if needed on board.
Sure. And having a paper trail that
Mhm.
documents need for support, which all of us that have the autism diagnosis, we have a support need in some category, right?
Right.
But if there's no documentation of that, if we get to be, say, 50 and we're so burnt out from trying to do, this was my story, so burnt out from trying to perform at an allistic level at work that we can't work anymore, and there's no documentation of a deficit, we don't qualify for disability. We don't qualify for help. So the
Or even
farther,
reasonable accommodations.
exactly. If you've been able to make it without accommodations this far, the government kind of looks at you and goes, "Well, you can do it another 20 years." The average life expectancy for someone on the spectrum is 36 to 54. So,
Wow. Which I
it,
don't believe.
well,
I
once
mean,
you hit
I'm sure there's
54,
science behind it, but
mhm.
we're seeing people my age being diagnosed, and I'm 59. I'm hoping it's wrong. Okay, let's put it
Well,
that
once you
way.
hit 54, it becomes the average life expectancy of the average American.
Okay.
Because the number one cause of death is premature cardiovascular disease, and the
Hmm.
second cause of death is suicide. So there are two suicide windows, one happening during the transition from high school, including late high school to early
Right.
college. Then there's some stability for a while. And then the last transition where there's a high suicide rate is that late 40s, early 50s. So the idea is that if you're able to have the adaptability to make it to the age you have, then
Hmm.
you will likely make it to the age of a standard
Okay.
American citizen.
Okay. So there's a little bit more to those stats than just 36 to 54. Okay.
Absolutely.
Because when I read the stats before, I went, this can't be right because I know I'm almost 60. I've read of people who are in their 70s or 80s diagnosed with autism and living. I went, I don't see it like cystic fibrosis, where a lot of people do die before their 20s or 30s.
And I think
So
that
this.
that's the second leading cause of death being suicide is something we can do a lot about
Hmm.
to try to get our average life expectancy increased. And the
Hmm.
way we can do something about it is with bringing awareness and acceptance through podcasts like what you're doing here.
Exactly. Now, when you went through your testing, a lot of people, when they go through the screening, the testing as adults, because there's not that many people who know how to or will even screen adults for autism.
Very much.
Now, did you have to go to somebody who normally does screening for children, or did you go to someone who knew what they were doing for screening for adults? And
I'm very lucky in that I live near a teach center, which teach is provides care for autistics, quote unquote, throughout the lifespan is
Mhm.
their logo. So I did work with a practitioner who saw children, but who also saw adults, and then
Okay.
also they that had certain adults that they've been seeing since they were children. So yeah, I think that's not the norm though. I think the norm is more you're kind of trying to fit somebody into a childlike presentation of autism,
Mhm.
and it makes it harder.
Yeah, you go in the room, there's little building blocks and toys. And
Right.
one or two things I think will happen. One, you feel insulted because I'm an adult. Or two, in my case, I know you can't see it. I got all these toys on my bus. Like, yes, this is my environment.
Yeah, no, I hear you, brother. I hear you.
And then, then the lady at the front counter says, yeah, you don't need to see a doctor. Going home, I'll just sign your forms.
Exactly.
Put
Exactly.
down the blocks, you're scaring the other kids. Those kind of things
You're a
happen.
funny guy, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
the
got toys all over the
ABOS
place there.
test, which that is designed mostly for children. I was tested
Hmm.
with the CARS 2
Hmm.
HFs,
Uh-huh.
HF, sorry, which is a term we don't use anymore, high functioning.
Right.
But it's designed for people with IQs over 100,
Hmm.
whereas most autism testing that is autism specific isn't. So it's really fallible. It's
Hmm.
unfortunate. A lot of it is really about the tester.
Tester and their knowledge and experience and what to look for and how open and comfortable the person is being screened is to share their intricate parts of their life. Which when I went in for my screening, I said I'm just going to tell them everything. I don't. And there's no judgment here. I know about mental health to the point of as long as I'm not indicating I'm going to harm myself or others, they can't tell anyone what I said. So I'm cool.
Yeah. And that's a good thing to remember too. Like the more direct you can be, the easier it'll be for them to figure out what's going on. So I'm glad you
And
were able
if
to get
you
to that.
And for our audience, if you are thinking about hurting yourself or someone else, do tell someone and get some help. Don't hide that from anyone. I just use as an example. I knew what I could and could not say to him, and that everything would be kept confidential. But yeah, if you are thinking about harming yourself, please reach out. 988 in the United States. You can text or call. I think you can even go to the website. They have a website. I'll put a link to that in the show notes that you can connect to them through there if you have any mental health crises. So,
And Chris, can I share a resource?
sure,
Would that be okay?
sure.
If you text 741-741, you text the
Hmm.
word home, they will get a therapist that can talk to you. You don't have to be suicidal, and you
Hmm.
can just text back and forth. It can just be
Oh,
like
wow.
if you're in autistic meltdown or if you're in
Uh-huh.
shutdown and you can't get to your words, but you need to like process.
Wow.
That's a resource that I think is great because you don't have to actually talk, which for me, my language centers shut down when I'm having a hard time.
Yeah, I do too. My wife knows me really well and all, and she sees that coming on, and she knows how to advocate for me, which really does help. I did not know about 741-741. I imagine that's just here in the United States. So if you're outside the
Yeah.
United States, that may not work, but here in the States, it does.
Yes. Yes,
Did
sir.
not know about that. That's awesome. So how does autism challenge you, and how does it become a part of your identity?
Great question, Chris. I would say my main challenges with autism around communication
Hmm.
and like my monotropic focus, meaning that I pay attention to one thing at a time.
Hmm.
I'm very good at details.
Hmm.
The things that I'm interested in, I'm very good at, but the
Hmm.
things that I don't have polytropism. I'm not focused on a lot of different things at once.
Right.
So sometimes I miss things.
Hmm.
And then also, it's really hard for me to understand, especially folks. My wife has ADHD, and so her conversation patterns will kind of be a little all over the place.
Hmm.
And sometimes I just get so frustrated because I don't know what she's talking about. Um, because she's focusing on multiple things at once, and my brain won't do that. And because of, I don't know, Chris, if you have to mask in your world or not, but I would imagine you do at least a little of that.
Yeah.
Because of how exhausting masking can be out in the
Hmm.
world, like asking questions that I'm kind of interested in, but they're just sort of the social scripts of what you're supposed to.
Oh, I hate small talk, but I'm sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt.
Yeah, no, me too. It's hard when you have to do
Pointless.
it at home.
Oh
So I end up
gosh.
having so much
Yeah.
less bandwidth and less patience for the people who love me the most. And that not only is frustrating for them, but it I think is a point of like, I don't know, shame is a good word, or just
Hmm.
frustration, reactivity for me. So in trying to understand other people is usually where I
Hmm.
find the most struggle. Other things I have mechanisms to cope with, like, you were
Right.
talking about like fidgets and noise canceling headphones and exactly.
Need a wall.
Yeah.
I
There,
don't
there,
go anywhere without this. Like my
exactly.
American Express card. Don't leave home without it. Yeah.
Yeah, funny guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, like for instance, if I'm going to meet somebody new for a networking event or
Uh-huh.
like a drug education dinner,
Right.
I'll look up as many people as I can on Facebook and try to
Mhm.
find some of their interests so that I'll have
Ooh, that's a
questions
good idea.
preloaded to ask them.
Uh-huh.
Um, so as long as I'm asking questions, it's okay. But when they ask questions back, sometimes it gets to be more challenging for me.
Well, for me, I'm better with people to some extent, people asking me questions. Now, I describe it this way: I have two lives, a personal life and a public life. And because I've written some books, I do some appearances, I worked in radio and all, and I know how to handle that. That if I'm at an event promoting a book, doing a radio event, whatever, I'm great at that. But if I'm out in public shopping at the store and people start walking up to me to talk to me, I don't do that well at all. In fact, I come across as being very rude and standoffish. I
Yeah.
got a T-shirt, and this backfired on me. And I
Okay.
shared this story before on my channel. And if you have not heard it, it's gonna be new. And if you had heard it, don't tune out. There's more coming in this interview. But I got this T-shirt that says, "You read this shirt. That's enough social interaction for today." And I got that to get people not to talk to me. The first day I wore it, three people came up to me. Three
Oh,
guys said, "I love your shirt. Where did you get it?" So it backfired.
oh no. I have a similar kind of thing. I have when I fly, especially, I'll do the pre-boarding.
Right.
And so many people will be like, this is for people with a disability. And like, I just don't want to have that conversation with
Mhm.
every time I get on a flight. So I have
Right.
a sweatshirt that says autistic. It's got a picture of someone going, shh, and it's a hoodie.
Oh,
So
wow.
between the headphones and the hoodie, like less people ask. Because it's just really no one's business.
No, not really. I mean, but I go out all the time. I
Mhm.
have headphones on when I go out. I'm trying to get something here. Hold on. I forgot this is blurred. Let me unblur this so everyone can see what I'm going to show you. I'm going to go off camera for a second because I always hit the wrong button when I want to unblur.
You'll figure it
There
out.
we go. There we go. I got this new T-shirt that says
Ooh.
Autism Acceptance for Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month. So whenever I go out in public, I have like 5 or 6 different T-shirts that have autism on it. So I have it on my shirt. I have it on my hat. Being, the confident autistic, I need to be
Yeah.
not hiding in public. So I wear it wherever I go, and it helps. I was at an eye doctor. Actually, I was at
Mhm.
Lens Crafters and talking to the lady that does the glasses, the frameologist, I call her. I don't know
Nice.
what she's really called. And she wanted to make eye contact. I hate eye contact. I hate it all my life. Okay. And she kept wanting to do that. And she was getting kind of frustrated. My wife was with me. And this is the only part I don't like. I wish I did this myself, but she advocated for me. She said, he doesn't like eye contact. He has autism. And what that did was open up a conversation where she asked questions about autism. So I got a chance to help somebody understand autism because of the fact I had my shirt on, I had my ball, and I was not making eye contact.
Yeah, it's funny how different situations, like I do a lot of public speaking and
Mhm.
training, and
Right.
in front of 100 people, I'm 100, like if we're only talking about autism, ask me anything and I'm
Yeah.
fairly comfortable.
Yeah.
Um, but if it's outside of my wheelhouse, like if we're discussing plants or sibling relationships, I don't have any of those.
Right.
I'm more kind of hyper vigilant to what's happening and to
Right.
trying not to miss anything. Um, so yeah, where and with that last shirt you showed me, Chris, is that something you're selling through your channel?
No, no, no. I actually found this on Amazon.
Okay,
So I'm going to be
a good
getting
one.
some merch for my channel a little bit later, but this I got off of Amazon. I'm going to put a link to it in my video description. I am an Amazon affiliate, so if you use that link in the video description, I may earn some money, which is one way that you, the viewer, can support the work that I do here through this channel, through all the video series, the upcoming podcast series launching in May of this year called Live Confidently Autistic, and all the other stuff that I do. So there'll be a link to that shirt in the video description. I love it. It's very comfortable.
I will be stopping by and buying one. Is it soft, Chris?
Oh, yeah, it's very soft.
Okay.
I love that. I'm not much of this is G-rated, folks. I'm not much of a shirt person. I like being without shirts when I'm at home, but for some reason, I don't want to scare off viewers. So I wear a shirt when I do these videos. My
So
wife said
yeah,
the
there you go.
world's
It's a
not
type of
ready for the
masking.
world me.
Yeah,
So
we can all agree that sometimes the world's rules are followable and sometimes they don't
yeah,
make any sense, but but they
but the
are.
ones that are most important to follow are the laws of our
Yes,
society. That's
agreed.
that those are non-negotiable. Got to follow those. But I got somebody sent me a shirt. Guy was on their podcast. Wonderful people, and I'm not knocking what they did. And but they had this stuff on the front, and they had this graphic on the back that I could feel through the back of the shirt.
Yeah,
And
thick.
and I love the shirt, but I can't wear it because of my sensitivity on my back. I don't like stuff touching my back that's clothing related. So it's a beautiful
Yeah,
shirt, but I can't wear it.
I know exactly what you're talking about, definitely. Would it be okay for me to share something that's really I
Sure,
find very interesting
sure.
about the eye contact?
Yes.
Cool. So, one of the cool things about being a nurse is I have access to all this education stuff that
Hmm.
is either online or in person. And one of the things I learned is that for folks on the spectrum, if you put us in like a PET scanner or a functional
Uh-huh.
MRI, you
Right.
can see that our visual cortex is wired into our amygdala, which is the fear center in the
Ooh.
brain. So and like this wears off over time,
Hmm.
and it's not to mean we can't ever make eye contact, but
Right.
for kids on the spectrum, especially when someone forces them to make eye contact, it's perceived as a threat and they go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn.
Hmm.
So it's like a biological issue. And so often when I work with kids, the IEPs will have
Hmm.
student will make eye contact with teacher 25% of the time. And
Hmm.
it breaks my heart because it's not fair to ask that.
No. No, it's one of the things that I look at autism like a culture. In our culture, eye contact's not that important. In fact, many of us don't like it. But in the holistic culture, it's expected, at least here in the United States, it's expected. Now, I always say on my podcast and my shows, everyone experiences autism differently. And my nephew, who's now 6, my great nephew, he insists on eye contact when he talks to you. Otherwise, he will keep saying the same over and over again until you make eye contact because he wants eye contact and I hate it, but because he's 6 and I know it will help him, I will do eye contact with him for him, but generally I don't like doing eye contact.
What a good uncle.
I try to be a good uncle.
Hear that.
I try really hard. So what had one of the favorite things or one of the favorite abilities, because we maybe it's deep focus, maybe it's analytical thinking. What is the one part of your autism that you enjoy the most?
Ooh, I love that question. I love hyper focus. Like
Hmm.
being hyper focused is kind of the best. I love sitting down to work on a presentation and like noticing it's 6 hours later. And I've just been like in my happy place, in the flow, like feeling
Hmm.
good.
Oh, I miss that.
Um, yeah, there's no that again, the monotropism, the ability to like really hard focus on one thing.
Hmm.
There's a little downsides, like I won't realize I have to pee until I stop. I will forget to eat, those
Yeah.
sorts of things, but it's
Hmm.
totally worth it. And then also being able to connect with often children, but also adults that have similar special interests to
Hmm.
me, or it's the ones I have, when they've never been around someone that is autistic. I love
Hmm.
that feeling of them being able to see that they're totally accepted and
Hmm.
not because I'm accommodating them, because I'm enjoying them.
Yeah.
It's the best. It feels so good. And then you're in this this hyper focus together, like alone together.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And that connection that you have when you meet somebody else on the spectrum, whether it be virtually, in person, um, through a chat online, or even reading a book, when I read something or connect with someone and they have a similar problem challenge that I have, like eye contact, that makes me feel like I'm not alone. I'm not an alien on the planet. It
Absolutely.
builds community and connection with others, and that gives you that confidence to push forward and know that you're okay. You have a right to be here, and you have a right to take a space, and you have a right to um, add things to our community because we bring a different view of the world into society. And I think we keep the world from getting too boring.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Abs-
I love that. And that's another reason why my business is called the Autism Consultant.
hmm.
And it was had to think long and hard about disclosing that much
Right.
because it's hard to get a job in healthcare if you disclose that you have autism. It increases
Hmm.
liability from the hospital's perspective.
I wonder why.
I don't know that it's actually even true. It's just what I've been told.
Okay.
Um, but I came to I feel like it's really important, even if it's just one person's experience, just me sharing my experience.
Hmm.
If it can do what you just said, as far as helping someone, especially a young person that doesn't have a lot of supports,
Right.
connected and normalized, then it's worth it if
It
it
is.
has a little bit of a fallout in my own personal life. Yeah.
Yes, it is. I mean, if we can make a difference in one person's life, even just one, it's well worth everything that we do.
Amen.
So, what advice would you have for somebody who's watching this video today, who suspects they're autistic or self-identifies as autistic or pursuing a late diagnosis of autism and struggling with their identity and this realization it's like a 180-degree turn in your life and your world is being turned upside down. What advice would you give to them? Words of encouragement.
So I think, and this may be a little bit of my own soapbox, so forgive me if I'm going off. My biggest piece of advice would be find good sources of information. Go reach out to the local chapter of the Autism Society of America and ask what supports are in your community. Go on Facebook and put your town and the word autism in the search bar. See if there's a group. Ask for help with resources. Please, please don't these 40-second sound bites. I saw a young fella, I would say he was maybe in his late teens, early 20s, and his TikTok was, I don't know why it's so hard to diagnose autism. Were you a theater kid? Well, there you go, you have autism. And that was the whole TikTok. And it's very upsetting for me. Like, it takes hours and hours and hours of testing to tweeze out these different
Right.
neurotypes.
Hmm.
Um, so before you get too far in to TikTok or social media being your only source
Hmm.
of understanding yourself, reach out to some professional organizations, reach out to other people on the spectrum that are in your town that you can connect to. Um, because being afraid or being angry or being, you know, fear and extremism is what gets clicks.
Right.
We have enough fear from not understanding things around us and from the process of growing up in an allistic world. Let's look at strengths-based approach to autism. And the people that are social media influencers aren't usually trained if they're doing 30-second sound bites in strengths-based approaches. So it's going to make you feel worse about yourself, not better, and like you're capable of less than you are.
Right. Get some confirmation from experts
Mhm.
who are trained in this. I mean, maybe start with a conversation with your doctor. I
Yep.
think before we began the actual interview, I shared my story with you of of how I began my journey, which was basically my great nephew came over. He had autism. We knew that. I started doing some research. I started observing him and said, I did that when I was a kid. I still do that today. I have sensory issues with noise. I told my doctor just about the noise issue without even bringing up autism. And she said, oh, that's not uncommon for somebody who's on the spectrum. You may want to see somebody to figure out how your brain works. And she referred me to a counselor, and the journey began from there. So you want to do that, but finding the influencers on the internet, like this YouTube channel. I know that's self-promoting, but it is true. We're not experts, but we are experts in the way that we live the experience. And
Absolutely.
we are here to help you feel you're not alone and maybe give you some things and ideas to ask your doctor about, your counselor about, and maybe give you that confidence to say, okay, these people who are on the spectrum have this characteristic. I have this characteristic. Now I have the confidence to go to my doctor and say, could I be on the spectrum? Talk to my counselor, whatever. So as influencers, should be able to support and encourage you and all. And self-identifying is fine. I'm okay with that. Self-diagnosis is different. I'm not a big fan of that. But when you do go to your doctor and all, you want to get credible information from them, WebMD, that kind of stuff, but not from Mr. TikTok that
Yeah.
I'm an authority in autism because I'm 18 and
Right.
TikTok does not have MD after his name. Okay.
Right. And just like, the idea that when you're younger, things are simpler and the
Hmm.
brain isn't fully developed, and that's
No, it
fair.
isn't.
And also, if you're not having a longer conversation,
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to get confused. I also would recommend like the idea that because one therapist didn't work for you doesn't mean no therapist will.
Right.
We need particular types of therapy that are very specific. Accelerated resolution therapy, internal family systems, mindfulness therapy. If you go see a cognitive behavioralist and you have a terrible time, it doesn't mean therapy is not a good fit. It means that therapist isn't a good fit.
Right.
There is help out there. It just sometimes takes a little while to like whittle it down to the person that's the right person for you.
Right. And just because one person says no does not mean that's a hard no. When it comes to diagnosis, you know, 'cause we talked about my story. I was very fortunate, but I know that many in our community, when they go to the doctor and the doctor says, "Oh, you can't be autistic," and shuts them down, and then because of all the times in our lives, whether it's directly or indirectly, we've been told we were wrong, we were too much, we need to be a different person because of our autism. That's just another rejection, and for many of us, using an analogy of a turtle, we want to crawl back into our shells, and we we can't do that. We have to be strong and advocate for ourselves. Just because one person says no does not mean that's the final answer, and you can get a second opinion.
Absolutely. And having a strong advocate, like I think we both have in our
Hmm.
partners,
Right.
that will go with you to those sorts of things. In case, like for me, sometimes at doctor's appointments, I'll go into shutdown where I'm not even
Hmm.
hearing the doctor anymore because
Right.
I feel so rejected that he wasn't listening to me.
Right.
So having somebody and asking for help. And if there's not people in your life that can provide you that help, like really trying to build that support system.
Like for me, I'm definitely afraid of needles, which I found is not all that uncommon in autism. And when I go to the hospital, I tell them, A, I have autism. B, I need the PIC line nurse because a PIC
Mhm.
line nurse can do IV easier than a, no offense to you,
Oh
the
no, I'm not
nurses.
good at IVs at all.
Okay, to do that before I get an MRI or whatever I need, right? And three, the hospital I go to, I used to volunteer at, so the PIC line nurses and I are friends. So having someone do the IV that I'm a friend with, we just have a natural conversation that calms me down enough I can get the IV. Now,
Absolutely.
nobody in the radiology believes me or listens to me. And they try to do that, and it becomes a very big scene. I go into a shutdown. I act like a 5 year old running out of the room, scared, whatever. And my wife is always there with me. She helps calm me down, she helps me regulate, and she advocates for me and tells him he really needs a PIC line nurse. We told you this. You should have called one. He has autism.
Right.
So it's great to have somebody who can advocate for you when you can't.
100% agree, Chris.
So
100%.
tell me about your practice, your business.
Yeah, sure. So over the years, I've worked in a lot of different settings with both adults and children, both
Hmm.
in the hospital, in the hospital, in the community. I've worked on when in North Carolina it's called the Innovations Waiver, which is like the part of Medicaid that's for people with autism and those sorts of diagnoses.
Right.
And what I saw time and time again was I didn't have enough time. Like
Hmm.
for folks on the spectrum, creating a rapport takes more time.
Hmm.
Uh, in my experience, I mean, it can be
Right.
different, but I didn't have enough time and I wasn't getting a good read on people because they wanted me to go down to the ER and assess a patient in 15 minutes.
Hmm.
I'm not even comfortable if I was being put in an ER room in 15 minutes and I worked in the ER for like 4 years.
Right. Hmm.
So I really wanted to change that paradigm and private practice seemed like the way to go. So I can schedule hour-long sessions. I schedule a
Hmm.
half-hour buffer in between sessions in case we go over.
Right.
I understand with executive functioning that people need reminders. I text the day before.
Hmm.
Sometimes people need to go virtual because they've been overwhelmed with what's happened already in the day, and that's
Hmm.
totally fine. I'm trying to phase this out, but for few folks, that don't really go out of their homes,
Hmm.
I do house calls.
Hmm.
The idea of and also working on like, what is your goal? Like somebody might call me for their adult child and be like, this is a kid that's, an adult that has graduated from a master's program, but is living at home and has not been able to be employed. And the
Hmm.
parents have a goal of him wanting him to like be able to eat more foods.
Right.
Well, what's his goal? I really don't care what the, and this is why I don't work with a lot of kids.
Yeah.
Um, if the adult doesn't have it as a goal and they're on the spectrum,
Hmm.
it shouldn't be a goal.
That's right.
So very much self-directed, like the opposite of
Hmm.
ABA. I don't want anybody to like, please stim, please avoid eye contact. If you want to sit on the floor, that's great. If you
Hmm.
want to sit with your back to me, I don't care.
Right.
Just a much more inclusive environment. Like I have tons of fun stims and toys in my office, and
Oh, I do too.
sometimes we go on walks if like eye contact's particularly hard, so that you can like
Hmm.
have that, regulating of the nervous system from being outdoors.
Hmm.
But just really, trying to give people a lens of normalcy and a lens of realistic expectation of themselves. Some of the continued, like I've been fired. I don't know if this is part of your story, Chris, but I've been fired from jobs on at least a half a dozen, not at least four occasions.
You've been promoted to customer.
There you go. Didn't
Okay.
feel like it in real time, but
Yeah. Put the
um,
positive spin on it.
yeah, it is a positive spin.
Yeah.
But I didn't know it was coming any of the time
Right.
because I hadn't looked at the pattern.
Hmm.
And I kept expecting neurotypical performance from my neuroatypical brain.
Right.
I had to modulate my expectations of myself and accept that they were different than the expectations the world had for me. And that requires having some help.
Yes, it
For me,
does.
maybe not for everybody.
Yeah. I have been asked to seek employment elsewhere more than once in my life myself.
It's yeah, we have such a good sense of detail.
Yeah.
Sometimes understanding chain of command. If I see something that's wrong, I'm probably just going to fix it.
Yeah.
And for some reason, like the work world doesn't really enjoy that process.
No, they, I
But yeah,
have
thank you
never
for
been good
asking.
with administration, even in grade school. I was a daily visitor to the principal's office for behavior issues, and it continued. And we've discovered if you let me do my job the way I do it, you're going to get really good results. And the reason I was really good at the hospital was I was a volunteer. I worked in the ICU. Nobody was around me. All I had to do was check in visitors and answer the phones. I had no management near me. And I do better if I'm left alone to do my job. But when you get management involved and other people involved, that's when problems come. So yeah, that was I actually received awards for my volunteer work, and I had it was ugly, but I had my picture posted on a billboard in town for
Nice.
my award for the hospital. Now it was a nice billboard.
Sure.
I did not like driving down the road and seeing my face on a billboard.
Did it make you feel shy?
Well, my wife always says I have a big head, and that did not help my argument. How
I
can
love the
people connect
literalness of
with
that
you?
joke.
How can people connect with you?
Thank you. So my website is the autismconsultant.com.
Okay.
I have a YouTube channel, same name. I
Mm-hmm.
post really regularly and especially about new medical things that are coming out, which is
Mm-hmm.
exciting. There's a lot more treatments. We're being seen as a target market for the first time, so big pharma is starting to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
That's good and bad, but having the info is sometimes gives people a lot of hope. But
Right.
yeah, if you reach out through the website, it's the best way. I very much enjoy doing trainings and public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
The more we can educate people about the fact that this is normal, it's just a different kind of normal,
Yeah.
the happier I
This
am.
I it's I could not, we've heard in our community, there's been organizations. I'm not going to say who they are, and I hope you won't either
I
because
don't.
I don't want
Okay.
to tear anyone down. But that have in the past advocated for a cure for autism, and they're really at this point. Most people say there's not a cure, and most people I've talked, okay, everyone I've talked to on the spectrum, we don't want to be. I cannot imagine waking up tomorrow morning without my autism. But I don't think I could function. It is so hardwired into me. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's how I feel.
I'd like to manage my symptoms better,
Yeah,
but like the way my brain works is, I think that might sound judgmental, but I think I would be bored in a different brain.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I just, yeah, I agree. I like to manage some of my symptoms a little bit better, but I don't think I want it totally gone because I'm up there in the years. I don't think I could learn a new way of living this late in my life. I'm good where I am. Thank you. Leave me alone.
yeah, yeah. I just turned 50 and it's like, well, I don't have another 50. Like it took me this long to get this comfortable with myself. I don't have another 50 years to get comfortable with that new me.
So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
fine. I'm good where I am. Thank you for your offer though, but I'm good.
Exactly. And the more I learn what it works for me and doesn't work for me, the more fine I am. So let's just keep on going in that direction.
Now, I'm going to have a link to your website as well as your YouTube channel in this video description so people can easily connect with you. And I think I have you. Could you email those to me to make sure I have those?
Of course.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And I'll put them in the show notes. Now, any final words you'd like to share with the audience before we wrap it up today?
I think if you are on the spectrum or you love someone on the spectrum, just if, have patience for each other. And know that some things might need a third party to help you figure them out, and that's okay. And that sometimes it feels like things won't pass. Like something really hard is happening. If you stick around, it'll pass. Something new will happen. So yeah, I guess stick around and like find your people and people that you can understand and understand you, and remember that there are places you belong.
Those are very great words. And how are you going to celebrate, or how are you celebrating Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month?
I have a youngster that I have a session with tomorrow. It's our last one, and she's moving, and we're gonna do some fun Hello Kitty stuff because that's her special interest.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm releasing a video series on this little AI device that helps translate conversations from phone calls, which I'm not very good at decoding what happens on phone calls. So,
Oh, okay.
this is a great tool for executive functioning. And I'm going to post, I think I got 4 videos. They're going to go on my YouTube channel that show different ways you can use them to kind of game the autistic brain into being able to be comfortable and not have to try to hold on to details if you just let the phone do it.
Yeah, let the technology do it, and all, and there's AIs out there that will summarize your phone calls now for you.
That's what this does. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't like phone calls. I'm fine with video chats, but phone calls, I just don't care for them.
I don't either. It's too much to keep track of, but it's also really cool because if you go back and you ask the AI what was the emotion the person was trying to communicate, it'll tell you it'll give you psychological insight if you just keep asking questions, so you can better understand what just happened from their perspective. Which,
wow,
yeah, I find it fascinating. And there's just there's so many tools that are coming out for neurotypicals that can be applied to autism that are really helpful. It's just a matter of getting it out there that it is helpful. So
I mean, a little bit off topic here, and we got to wrap this up because we're running long. But this is not uncommon in the disabled world in general. Closed captioning has been on TV. I had a friend of mine who got this used TV, and they didn't have the original remote. They could not turn off the closed captioning, so they left it on. That ironically helped their young child learn how to read. Unbeknownst to anyone, that was helping her learn how to read.
Yeah, we say that all the time. Like in classrooms, if you make an adaptation for an autistic child, all the kids will do better.
Benefit from it.
Yeah. So it's not like you're just helping one kid. We're not changing everything for one kid. We're making it more accessible for everybody.
Everyone.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly what you said.
So thank you so very much for joining us today on One Autistic Adult Story. I wish you a very happy and enjoyable Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month.
You too, Chris. It was a pleasure being on, and it was really lovely to meet you.
Nice meeting you too. Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Take care of yourself.
Now it is your turn. Share your thoughts on this video in the comments. And if you're looking for videos that will help you live confidently autistic, like today's guest, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And when you do not forget to ring the bell to be notified of new videos and when I go live for a weekly live stream. Until next time, this is the Confident Autistic, aka Chris Mitchell, reminding you that I am always here to help you live confidently autistic.